I reinstalled the washer and that little clip that holds this arm over the this little heart-shaped cam, and also this spring. I'm going to put a little bit of lubricant, a little bit of grease. Remember, on the sliding items, I like to use grease. Beautiful, nice and smooth. Remember, I said this cam follower right here rides around this heart-shaped deal. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of grease, little bit of grease on the cam follower and around this outside edge. When that cam on the other side rotates, it's going to turn this guy here, see? Now remember, I've even marked it, the switch goes right here. So I will go ahead and install that right now. The little switch bracket has a couple of these little dimples here to locate it so it sits correctly, and it'll mount in exactly the right spot. I've worked on some Admiral items. Admiral was pretty good about details like that. Their stuff was not cheap junk. It was well made. They made good stuff. All right. Now, I suppose I should have made sure the switch was in the right position first. There we go. See? That operates the switch. Let's see if make sure you can see that. Now watch this little arm right here. See? Okay. No need to lubricate that. It fits loosely enough and it's brass. It should be fine. I think we're pretty close to done on this side of the record changer. Let me turn this baby over. We'll clean this mess up here after it's run around. I don't know what I do to deserve this. This little fella is our grand cat. This is my son's cat. So we call him our grand cat because we don't have any grandkids. So all we have are grand cats. And this little guy is very lovable. His name is Marty McFly. That's my son's creation. He's a good little cat, but he sure does like to hang around a lot and help. He's trying to get involved in this record player I've been working on. And I sure wish he would let me get to work. But it doesn't seem to be top on his agenda. Ow! All right, Marty. Time to quit boring all the good people out there. We're going to put you down and I'm going to get to work. Okay? Okay, down you go. There you go. Let's peel the tape off of these wheels here. It's about time we did something with them. Okay. Now, I'm going to try something, guys. Try an experiment. It's time to get ready to put the platter on this record plate changer just to see. Before I do that, I'm going to wipe it out with a little bit of lacquer thinner, just very, very little bit of lacquer thinner, very gently, very quickly. I don't want to remove paint there if I can help it. This platter, looking at this platter, this record changer was hardly used at all. I mean, this thing's like new. So that might explain why that motor was so clean and so free turning. I'm going to grease it later, but I don't want grease right now. I just want to see if I can get it on there and get it working. Okay, we've already lubed the bushing for this platter a little bit. We've already lubed that. We put just a little bit on this shaft, so we're going to go ahead and give this a real quick dry run. I have power connected to the motor, but I'm not going to run that just yet. Ooh, that can't be good. Let me just check something here. Turn it on. That's not what I want. Alright, so I'll just leave it on for now. By the way, it's got a really cool on-off switch. It's right here on top. You push it to reject it, and you turn it to turn it on and off. All right, so here's what I do when I run into this situation. Sometimes this happens. Maybe I'll replace the idler wheel and it doesn't quite sit at exactly the same height, that kind of thing. I have these fiber shims. What these actually are, I'm calling them shims, but these are fiber washers that are used to seal when you, like for oil drain plugs on car oil pans and stuff like that. They're made of fiber. They're really easy to get cheap. I have gobs of them around because of my old Volkswagen and Porsche days. They used a lot of these on various places on the engine. You got to be careful with them because they break easily. I don't think that one is going to be enough, so I'm going to try that plus one smaller one here. Okay, I'm going to try this smaller one with it. Let's see, we'll just turn it by hand and see where we get. Well, maybe we'll turn it on. It's better, but it's not quite there. Yikes. This is my biggest gripe with working on record changers, is that I don't have a good way to support them. And they're real buggers sometimes. So put another shim on there, see if that improves things. That's pretty good. Oh, I hear it. You hear that? I think one more thin shim will do the trick. The cool thing about these shims is that unlike metal washers, they don't transmit vibration as readily or as well as metal does. So they're actually going to serve two good purposes. They will isolate vibration as well as shim this record changer platter up. But the thing is, we're talking about a 78 player, so you know we're not looking at audiophile quality here. There we go. All right, let's see if we make noise now. Hey, that sounds good, doesn't it? See that? Now watch this. Off, on. Now watch, reject. Hey, check it out. It actually works, guys. Now, this is always the kicker. Will it work when I get to the end of the record? Let's see. Cool. Now, this kind of record changer was not designed to return and stop at the end of the last record. That's just how they're made. It'll run all day long. It does not have an automatic off. I mean, it's not like there's anything broken. The mechanism doesn't exist on this machine to turn that back off once it reaches the end of the record. So a person has to be paying attention. It's not the kind of thing where you put a stack of records on and go to sleep. Well, I mean, it won't hurt it. It'll just run all night. Okay. Now, supposing you have it off and this is sitting over here. You haven't played a record yet. You just turn it on. Okay, turn it on. Now this is sitting over here, and you've got records up here, and you wanna start the first record. Hit reject. There you go. Check this out, guys. Watch right here when I do reject. Watch right here. Okay. That's what pushes the record on. On the newer record changers, the spindle had a little tab that stuck up here and would push the record off of the spindle, okay? It was a straight spindle. But on these older record changers, you have this doohickey here. Okay? Now, I think, I'm not sure what that lever does. I'm not quite sure. That lever seems to make it manual, except for reject. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know what's going on there. That's something I never noticed before. Now you change the size of the record by flipping this guy around here, okay? And what that does, you see, now you watch. Let me do that again. You see where the reject button is not really centered? That is the center pivot point. That is the pivot point though. So this would be for the smaller 10-inch record, and this is for the larger 12-inch record, okay? Okay, so I think we're good. Okay, next I've got to address this tone arm. This is a plastic tone arm with a plastic bodied crystal cartridge, which makes it pretty easy for me to substitute because it is not designed for a real heavy crystal cartridge. So that's going to make it easier for me to come up with a cartridge that will be in the same weight ballpark as what was in there originally. My biggest challenge right now is going to be how to set this up, because I have limited reach here, set this up so I can work on it. I'm going to probably have to do it upside down, which means I need to support this guy because there's no clip and it'll want to fall off on me. And I kind of like the way it's working now, and I don't really want to fool with it, so I'm going to try and leave it on there. Let's see how we do here. It'd probably be good if I disconnect the 120 volts while I'm horsing with this, so I don't give myself a little surprise, eh? So there we go, my 120 volt supply. That'd be cute. You guys could watch me get electrocuted. How sweet would that be? And by the time you saw the video, I'd either be dead or be telling you about it. Okay, I'm going to turn off my isolation transformer. And that kind of quiets the room down a bit. And let's see what we got here. So now if I set this down on the platter's not going to fall off. And look at that. Looky there, guys. I got a perfect vantage point from which to work on that tone arm. I want to put something soft and cushioning under there so I don't accidentally push too hard and snap it. That is an interesting cartridge. Definitely a crystal cartridge. Very interesting cartridge. So it looks to me this black one here will be the ground wire that that sets this at the same ground potential as the radio chassis, so you don't get hum. And then these will be the two signal wires. I'm not even going to try to get this cartridge. It just won't be possible. So this is a crystal cartridge. Even if I found a new old stock crystal cartridge, chances are good that it would be dead. And so these are nice as museum pieces, but they're not useful for much else. The bad thing about these crystal cartridges, suppose I did test this cartridge and it worked, or it kind of worked. Well, here's the deal. The way these things fail is the salt crystal. It's a Rochelle salt is what they called it. The salt crystal basically would lose its, it's called, I think it's called the moisture of crystallization or water of crystallization. Basically, they dry out and turn to dust. The crystal structure breaks down in the process and they turn to a dust. And you can't fix it. You can't do anything with it. You can't replace the crystal with anything, the crystal element. And so basically the cartridge just dies whether it's being used or not. The thing is, if you find one that does work, it won't work for long because the crystal element will have suffered the ravages of time. And even if it's working now, the mechanical operation of it vibrating will cause it to stop working, you know, break it down even faster, and at some point it will fail. And so sad, it's really sad because they're cool to look at and the way they work is really cool, but there's no point in trying to save them. I'm trying real hard not to shorten the wires because I don't want to have to deal with running new wires. These wires are perfectly good, and they're always kind of glued into the tone arm and run under and through things, and it's hard to pull them and replace them. So I try not to. Now normally I wouldn't dream of heating a cartridge, but since this one is going to be no good anyway to anybody, I might as well go ahead and get it out of there. They're really cool to look at, and they work by this stylus here vibrating side to side this way. Okay, and it is attached at the other end to a crystal cartridge through a little like wishbone arrangement that twists that cartridge this way. And when you twist those cartridges, you provide that torsional stress. They get a voltage on the opposing surfaces of those, a voltage across those surfaces, and that becomes the signal. So they're really cool how they work, and new ones could be made. It's not like it's impossible to get materials or anything like that. It's just that nobody makes them. So I'll go ahead and put this with the bucket full of other crystal cartridges that I have. Ceramic cartridges, by the way, work similarly to a crystal cartridge, only that the ceramic element, the piezo element in a ceramic cartridge, is a little bit more durable over time, or robust over time, than a salt crystal one is. They work otherwise pretty similarly, except that the piezoelectric effect in a ceramic element is a little bit lower produces a lower voltage than that produced by the salt crystal in a crystal cartridge, at least for most of them that they made. This tone arm here has like a flat, I'm going to call it the bottom right now, but it's really the top of the tone arm. This flat bottom here is going to be a perfect location to go ahead and mount the new holder for the ceramic cartridge. The biggest thing is going to be making sure that I maintain the weight that I need. I need to be 8 grams or less. They can usually take up to about 10 grams, but I try to stay at 8 grams or less if I can. And between say 6 and 7 is about ideal for these. That's where you'll get the best sound. I'm getting ready to install a replacement cartridge in this tone arm. And there it is right there. I get these from Voice of Music Audio Enthusiasts. And what this came from the kit, the KCCB, and it is a 78 only cartridge kit that utilizes a Phonsteel, I think P226, might be a 228. I think they're the same. Anyway, this cartridge kit comes with a couple of little mounts, little plastic clip mounts, the cartridge itself, a needle guard, and it's got a flip over needle, and the KCCB is 78 on both sides, and he trims the little handle off for the needle so that it looks more authentic when it's mounted in the record player. And it comes with some nuts and bolts, some hardware, some screws for mounting. You know, if there happens to be a 1/2-inch mount, you can mount it that way. Also, it comes with some little clips to clip onto the terminals here, and then you can solder those clips before you clip them on to the wires from the record player. What I like to do, I don't like to glue this mounting clip in there, and here's why. Suppose that 20 years from now, somebody decides they want to replace it. Well, if it's glued, if the glue hasn't failed, then they're going to probably tear up this plastic tone arm getting it out. And if the glue has failed, it's going to leave a bunch of residue that's going to make it hard to attach it on some other way of mounting a cartridge on this thing. So what I do is this. I use this 3M automotive trim adhesive. It's I used to spend a lot of time restoring cars, and I got to know the 3M company pretty well because in the world of painting cars, 3M is king. And the 3M adhesives are about the best I've ever seen. And I mean, I'm not blind to, it's not brand loyalty that's saying that. I have tried a lot of things, and 3M almost always comes out on top. So I'm a big fan. Now this stuff here, it's a double-sided trim adhesive. It's fairly thin, and it's a fairly dense, I think it's a closed cell foam that it's made of. It's maybe a 1.5 millimeters thick. It's not very thick, so that's one thing that's not necessarily in its favor. But what is in its favor is that the adhesive on this stuff is really, really good. So if you put this in properly on a clean surface, it will not come out. The foam will tear first. It will not let loose of what it's holding on to. But if you do have to get it out at some point, the foam will tear, and you pull it out, and then you can clean out the adhesive, and a little bit of lacquer thinner will dissolve the rest of the adhesive residue and take it out, unlike most glues. So, okay, so you say, well, it's just tape. It will fail at some point. Yeah, it probably will. At some point, the adhesive on this will probably release, but the upside of that is that's probably going to be 20 years on from now, if not longer. And there might be some better 3M adhesive tape available, or at least you can replace it with more of this and go another 20 years. But in the meantime, we haven't torn up this tone arm. That's why I like to do it that way. You know, you do it your way. I'm going to construct a little mount. I have to build it up with probably 3 or 4 layers of this tape. I don't worry about that, because what that also does is give a little bit of isolation from, you know, it's a little bit of vibration isolation that would otherwise be transmitted into the cartridge from maybe the record riding on the platter. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in there, build a little mount. I'm going to take this cartridge mount. I'll separate it from the clip here. Separate the cartridge from the mount. As you can see, it's real simple. Okay, it comes with 2 mounts. This is the one I'm going to use. Fits right down into there. And then I'll use some adhesive. Now there's a couple little tabs that were intended to align the original cartridge. I'm going to put this between those tabs to align this clip. Every tone arm is going to be different, okay? Now, the problem with this is if I don't build this up off the floor a little bit, the back end of the cartridge, the terminals will hit this little original mount, these original screw mounts here. I don't want to do anything to modify those screw mounts, because I would love it if someday, because I'm going to save the cartridge, the original, for this. If someday I find a way to rebuild cartridges, well, then I'll put an original back in. So I'm going to build this up enough so that it's up out of the way, and I can run wires to the back terminals of that cartridge. So let me do that. It's pretty boring to watch, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. I forgot to mention that I was going to take a little bit of lacquer thinner and kind of just wet the inside of that tone arm with the lacquer thinner. That does 2 things for me now. That cleans the tone arm. It also removes just a touch of the plastic. Now, why would I do that? Well, if you take a look at what that did to the surface of the plastic, is it roughed it up a little bit. It didn't like rough it up badly, but it did remove the glazing from the surface of that plastic. And what that's going to do is enable the adhesive to stick to that plastic a little bit better. It also cleaned the plastic, so if there's any oils or anything on there, the adhesive will also stick better by removing those oils. So you don't like scrub like crazy, and I'll remove any little hairs and stuff that were attracted from the paper towel onto the plastic. But my main goal here was just to rough it up a little bit, and I'll let that adhesive do the rest. And there you have it. There's the mount, installed with a couple of layers of 3M tape, double-sided adhesive tape. One of the reasons I don't worry about stacking layers of this tape is because it's double-sided and it has such strong adhesive. It sticks really well to itself. So this thing is going to work out great. I don't think there's going to be any issues here at all. Well, I forgot to hit the record button when I was putting the wires on that cartridge. But I was able to mount the cartridge in the holder, and everything's going to work out great. So let's take a look at it, the finished product now. Okay, boys and girls, I've gone ahead and put that potentiometer and power switch back in the radio. So it is ready to go. Oops. So you know it works. I've turned it on enough to see a light goes on, but I haven't powered the radio up yet. I kind of like it. If it works, I kind of like the excitement to be real. So let's go ahead and turn this puppy on and see what we get. This will be the first chance for me to test out that tuning condenser too. Okay, let's turn the volume up a bit. All right. Let's check out the tone control.
here on ESPN 700 as we count down the days to the start of the 20.
That's going to work fine. That's going to work fine. I'm real pleased. Okay, so the reason I was worried about that tone control is that you're going to realize just how much of a ding-dong I am. That original pot that I showed you that I put in this thing, the 2 meg pot, I installed it, got everything wired up neatly and everything, went to turn it on, and I got nothing. And then I couldn't remember whether or not I had checked whether the power switch on that assembly worked. Well, sure enough, the power switch was bad on that one too. So finally I went and dug out one of the new ones I had that are 1 meg pots. So I have a handful of 1 meg pots with power switches on them that are brand new and they work great. It's a brand new switch. I probably paid, I don't know, probably $15 or $20 for it because it's a good quality switch. It's not a junk one. It's actually a new old stock American-made switch. Really good switch. It's going to last the rest of the life of the person that owns this radio. Anyway, I was worried that 1 meg versus 2 meg, I might not have the right range of tone control, but you know what I do? There's high end. There's bass. Real nice. Okay. So now, let's try something else that we haven't tried yet, and that is the record player. So let me put it on the mode switch on record player. There it is. I have no idea what to expect here. I'm using a lower voltage cartridge. I don't know what the original output voltage of that cartridge that was in it was. It might have been a lower voltage one because it's a 6-tube radio. So we're not talking about a 1-tube wonder, okay? It might only have put out originally 1 volt and running 0.7 volts, which is what this one is putting out, will be okay. So let's check this out. Take off the needle guard. I'm going to grab a record. Now, this happens to be one of my very favorite records. It's one of my prized possessions. Those of you that don't know this about me, I am a tremendous Benny Goodman fan. I love Benny Goodman. Of all of the swing bands, Benny Goodman's stuff was my favorite. There is no song in the world that will rock a house like Sing, Sing, Sing. And I have seen it played live because a friend of mine used to be in a swing band. And I'll tell you something, man, that tune will rock a house. And if you don't know the song Sing, 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 you go out there and look it up on YouTube, man. It'll blow you away. It's a good song. Anyway, Benny Goodman's one of my favorite. This is a Foxtrot. It's called Swing Angel. Let's give it a listen. And actually, this is the first time I played this particular record on a record player. So I'm going to be learning a lot today. All right? So let me show you how this one works. You turn it on with this switch right here. Bang. Okay? Typical 78 player. Sounds like one, looks like one. All right, let's turn up some volume here. Now, I'm going to try the reject out. Let's see how it works. Push the button. Okay, here we go. Hey, check it out. Yeah. All right, man. Yeah. Lots of volume. Wow, that's going to work out great. She's going to love this thing. Lots of tone range. Yeah. You see, guys, boys and girls, if you were born way too late like I was, chances are good you don't know this music. Listen to Goodman on the clarinet. Alright, I'm going to get in trouble if I let that play. So that is the great Benny Goodman. They made no better than him, and they never will. So let's reject this. Now, I told you this thing is not designed to stop the play after the last record. It just keep playing the last record over and over. It's not the kind of machine you want to fall asleep to. So this is how you reject it. You just push the button. Look at that. Oh yeah, we're doing great. When you're done, you simply lift the tone arm off, set it over to the side, and turn it off. That's how you do it. I'm going to put one more record on it. Check it out. I've never had a 78 before that was this odd color, this odd plastic. So this is not a shellac record. This looks to me to be almost like polystyrene. So that's a nice light needle. It's not going to hurt this record, so I'm going to give it a try. I haven't yet weighed this tone arm. I'm thinking, it's probably about 8 or 9 grams. A little on the heavy side, but it plays so darn well. It's not going to hurt most shellac 78. It's not going to hurt them. So let me turn it on. Real smooth, real smooth. A little motor noise, but remember, it's also sitting on a box. Ooh, nice quiet record. Oh, geez. Not recorded nearly as loudly, and I've heard that about the styrene records. All right, guys. All right, I'll get into the music later. You don't need to watch me doing that. All right, so far, so good. Really good, actually.
I'm going to get picked future, but I'd rather get
So,
the better player in this
I am going to go ahead and get this thing
year the year after. That's my thing.
a little bit of staticky spot on that volume pot. I'll have to spray some more deoxit in it. But so far, so good. Everything's working out great. Real pleased with it. I think I can move forward and finish up this project this weekend.